What up, guys? Party knife here, the dagger with the swagger. Just kidding. No, what up, guys? Today we're gonna have a little bit of a mod tutorial. Now, I am aware that I've already shown you guys how to do this before, but I thought it would be really practical, especially for newer players, to have a separate video, making it easier for searches. On top of that, we're also gonna go through a couple of Vermintide settings and mod settings for that matter, where I'll talk you through really quickly what are they, what do they do, and which ones are important, as well as a couple of hotkey settings and so on. You get the idea, hopefully. So anyways, that's what we're gonna do in today's video, and hopefully you can forgive me for having for repeating myself. So first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna open up your Steam, and you're gonna click Warhammer Vermintide here in your game section. Then you're gonna go into the workshop. Once you're in the workshop, you're going to see a bunch of mods, right? But what you want to do is you want to click most popular. Then you want to click the approved section. Now, the difference is just that the denied and applied mods, they don't work on the official realm, which means if you have some of those installed and you try to open the official realm, it's going to deny you entrance. But there is a setting, which we'll get to momentarily, that allows you to just bypass that. Like, it's not that you can use the unapproved mods on the official realm, but it just disables those mods when you try to open on the official realm. But you're gonna click approved for now, and then you're gonna click most popular all time. Once you've done that, that should start out giving you the mod Vermintide framework, Vermintide mod framework. And that's a mod you need in order for all other mods to work. So the way you install a mod is pretty straightforward. You simply click this button here. It's going to look like this for you. You click it, boom, mod is installed. That's it. That's how you install a mod, right? So you start with the mod framework, and we can scroll down here and see numeric UI. Again, it shows you specific numbers for things that the game UI doesn't tell you. It's a great mod. Playlist Plus, it allows you to hold down tab and see the specific build, item properties, talents, selections of your teammates, those who have the mod installed as well. So that's a pretty nice mod as well. UI improvements allows you to access the inventory of other classes, other heroes, without having to switch hero. And that's one thing. It also has other UI improvements in terms of just how everything is set up. It's a universally great mod, I would say. I would definitely grab that one as well. Reroll improvements, pretty obvious. It makes rerolling items both quicker, easier. You don't have to move the item between your inventory and the crafting screen every single time you want to re-roll it. It shows you what it has rolled without you having to put your mouse over it. It reduces the amount of time you have to hold down the reroll button. So again, just universally life improvements to this mod. Notice key pickup just gives you a chat notification whenever someone picks up the key, so you know whether it's been picked up or not. We got the chat block too. It does exactly what you would think it do. Exactly what you would think it does. If you minimize the game or you hold open the chat or anything else causes you to go out of Vermintide for whatever reason, it's gonna automatically prompt you to block meanwhile, preventing you from potentially dying because you alt tapped or whatever, right? Bestiary shows you a list of every single minion in the game, where you can see the HP of every single minion, the armor class on all the different, the HP on all the different difficulties of the game, and the armor classes. You can see how many of them you've killed since you installed the mod, and how many of them have wrecked you since you installed the mod. So that's also universally a good mod. Skip intro, pretty basic. Penlight Lua libraries, that's another mod you need for certain mods to work. Simple UI, again, it just changes a couple of UI elements. It's a great mod. Bot improvements, obviously you want bot improvements. It just changes the AI of some of the bots, making them slightly less handicapped. Then we got the scoreboard tweaks. It just shows a couple of extra metrics on the scoreboard. Weapon kill counter shows you how many kills you have with that particular item. Loadout manager, that's another great one. It allows you to save up to 10 loadouts, where you can put in your items, your talents, and your cosmetics, your icon, your skin, and then you can save them as one selection, and you have 10 of them for each class. In other words, you can have 10 builds saved, and you can reload them by the click of a single button, and it'll recall your loadout. So again, universally a great mod. Third-person equipment, just a cosmetic. Mission timer, pretty obvious. Crosshair kill confirmation. it shows a little visual notification when you actually get the kill. And the practicality here is that if you're shooting at a Blightstormer in the far distance and you don't know whether or not you killed it, well, then you do. So again, that's another great mod. Host your own game. Pretty obvious. Persistent ammo counter. It shows you whether or not you actually managed to get the reload through when you swap to your melee weapon. Parry indicator just shows you timing for parrying. No wobble. It's really nice. I love this mod. Absolutely love it. Because I think there's so much annoying camera sway sometimes when you're shooting. So that's also a really great mod. Friendly fire indicator, pretty obvious. Crosshair fix, pretty obvious. Kill feed tweaks, great mod. Shows you exactly how many of a specific minion you got the last hit on. Let's see here, Need Eye, it shows you who needs a certain thing the most on your team, who needs the healing, whatever. Countries in lobby browser shows you what country the person is hosting from. Full body awareness, when you're looking down, you'll see the body of the hero. UI tweaks, a great mod. I already have an entire video that I'll put somewhere here. I'll also put a link in the description showing you exactly how to set that up so it looks exactly like my game, assuming that's what you want. So I have a whole video on that, but I'll link to that video. Noiter ult effects, that's one of my favorite mods. It allows you, every time you use an ultimate ability like Shade, for example, it comes with both a visual and an audio effect, right? And on a case-by-case basis, what this mod allows you to do is go in and remove either or both the audio and the visual impairments that are associated with an ulti, for example, or with drinking a health pot, or with drinking a Kong pot, and then while the effect is there, there'll be a background noise, right? Or when you're in the Shade ulti, for example, specifically, it goes black and white. There's this visual impairment that makes it harder to see where you are and what you're doing. And there's also an audio cue with it, which makes it hard to hear, okay, where the hell was that assassin? And you can disable those effects on a case-by-case basis. Great mod. Boss kill timer just shows, how long it took you to kill the boss since it spawned. Crosshair customization, pretty straightforward. Blood for the Blood God allows you to have blood on your weapon by default. A clock, pretty straightforward. UI scaling, customizable zoom sensitivity, allows you to increase or decrease how sensitive it is when you're zooming in. Removed hang corpses, info dump for streaming, pretty straightforward. So those are all of the approved mods. Now, if you guys also want one on all of the unapproved mods, or the applied/denied mods, then I'll gladly do that as well. But for now, you're gonna go ahead and open Vermintide once you've clicked all the buttons, right? All the pluses, and they've all been installed. Then you go into this mods here. Then you open this window here called mods, right? And you're gonna see something like this. Now, I have an entourage of mods, right? But the first thing you want to do when you have this screen open is you want to click this little button here. That's what I told you about earlier. That pretty much allows you to have unofficial mods, and it's not going to affect you when you open the official realm. So the mods are only going to be active when you try to access the modded realm, and thus you can have mods for testing, allowing you to open the modded realm, and you can have and you're still going to be able to access the official realm without having to, remove any mods or disable any mods, which is super practical. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to scroll through your list here, and you first want to click up here. First you want to click here on the all/none, and you want to make sure that all the mods are ticked. Once they're all ticked, you want to scroll through the list and make sure none of them look like that. None of them are red. If any of the mods have this red warning, then then the mods aren't ordered in the right order. And then the mods aren't listed in the correct order. Now, you need the Vermintide mod framework to be on top. And again, some mods require other mods to be loaded before them. That's essentially what this is. This is the load order of the mods. Now, for most of the mods, it doesn't matter. Most of them don't care. It's only a couple of mods that you need on top. But assuming all of the mods are looking good and none of them are red, then you're all ready to click accept and play game. Which should, hopefully, open the game. Okay, so once you're in game, you're going to click play. And it's probably going to look a little bit different for you because I have a bunch of custom UI settings already set up. But you should now click escape and have this option called mod options. Now, this is a place where you can both customize all of your mod settings. You can also disable certain mods that you might want to use for certain scenarios, but that you don't always want active. Now, that is done simply by, unclicking this button here. And now, if I were to go into the lobby browser here, that mod should no longer be active. So as you can see here in the lobby browser, I cannot see the country that different people are hosting from, but if I went back in here and activated it and went back into the lobby browser, boom, I now have a showing here telling me which country they're hosting from. So this is where you can customize and activate/disable all of your mods. Now there's a search bar down here where you could search for crosshairs, for example, and it's going to find all of your crosshair mods, where you again can customize the color of your crosshairs. Let's say you want it to be blue every time you critical hit or red every time you headshot. That's where you go in and customize those options. Or you could have a mod in your mod options. Let's say I want a third-person equipment. It's one of those sort of visual mods that are purely cosmetic, that sometimes I like to have it on, sometimes I don't. Sometimes it can be annoying, and other times, it looks good, right? And you can, it's really, really practical that you can just do like this and then it's off and you can turn it back on. You could also search for the Neuter Ultifax, for example. That's a really good example here. I told you about this earlier. To give you an example here, shade. If I were to disable these settings, that's how it is normally, right? I would ulti, and as you can see here, everything goes black and white, and there's this background noise. It's not that, it is subtle, but nonetheless it's there, right? And if I were to go into the mod options and activate both of these, now when I use my ulti, let me just grab a conk pot here because I am on the official realm. Now that's not going to be the case. You see, now I ulti and everything looks completely normal. There's no sound effect and there's no visual effect. I still have the effect active up here, so I can still time just how long I have to use the ulti and whether or not I am still invisible. But it's just a universally better way to do it. Now, I thought I would help you guys with a couple of important settings in-game as well. So if you click escape and go into your options, here under input, you have something called input buffer and priority input buffer, both of which are fairly new. They're fairly new additions to the game. Now, an input buffer, what that is, if let's say I were to set this to 0, right, and click apply, what that does is it sets the window in which any action is queued together with another action to 0, which means if I were to tap my left mouse button twice, I would only attack once. I would have to, constantly keep clicking in order to keep attacking, because it's not going to queue them together, which means unless I'm clicking at the exact moment the first attack's animation is finished, then it's not going to perform the second attack. Right? So you probably don't want that set to 0. I think 0.5, the default, is fairly fine. But then you also have the priority input buffer. And if we read here action, weapon switching is considered a priority action. So that is the window of time in which swapping your weapon is considered a priority, which it should always be. So if I were to just queue up a bunch of attacks here and then click swap, then it's going to get put at the end, right? So the window of time in which I want to swap, and I want to do that immediately, right? You want to swap immediately if you're shooting. You want your melee weapon to pop up as soon as possible. Whereas if I do this and I click my swap button, you see nothing happens because I've already spammed so many attacks. And for that reason, I personally prefer to have it maxed out, because I always want to swap the moment I click swap, regardless of any other action I have queued up. When I click swap weapon, I want to swap weapon now, not after the attacks are already queued up. Let's see, what else do we have here that is importante, muy importante. We have visual effects here, camera shake, head bobbing. I prefer them off. Then we have player outlines. Now, if you're a new player especially, I would set this to always on. What it does is other player outlines, they're never going to get disabled unless they're really, really far away. And that's really useful, especially in the dark. Especially if you get disorientated, where are my teammates in the midst of the chaos, this is always going to be on, so it's always going to tell you, okay, my teammates are in that direction, which is just a huge advantage, especially if you get disorientated and you're lost in the dark and you don't know where to go, then you can, at the very least, go in the direction of your teammates. Under video here, we have things like if you have issues with frame rates and stuff like that, or with lag for that matter, capping your frame rate at something specific is extremely useful for reducing lag. Then we have the field of view, which personally I prefer between 80 to 90, depending on the aspect ratio of my game at that moment when I'm recording. I'm obviously in a 9 to 16 ratio, which is the normal 1920 times 1080 resolution. And for that, I actually usually prefer it a little bit lower, around 84, 85-ish. Then we have, let's see here, then we have, where is it? Where are you, my friend? Where are you? Auto exposure speed, here it is. Now, I prefer having this maxed out. And that's a matter of a competitive advantage, I would say. It essentially sets the speed at which large lighting changes happen. So let's say you go from a cave out into the open, right? You'll get blinded and slowly you'll be able to see, right? It's the effect of, large lighting changes, where if you've been in the dark for a long time and you go out into the open, then you'll be like, oh shit, can't see shit, right? This makes that change a lot quicker, thus making you able to see something a lot faster. Network settings, this is also a good one. Discard changes. Under network settings here, if you have trouble hosting and you feel like people are lagging when you're hosting, set your max upload speed to 2 megabytes per second. That's the maximum possible. I would also suggest under key binding settings, I have a couple of important tips here as well. The first thing you want to do if you're a new player is you want to immediately switch away from jump and dodge on the same button. Now I know if you're used to it, it's a comfortable feeling of both dodging and jumping on space, but it's horrible because there's no scenario in which you're arbitrarily picking between jumping or dodging. You always want to either jump or either dodge. And the moments in which it's really important is when you really need this to be a jump or you really need this to be a dodge, and you accidentally do the opposite. And I recall having this happen so many times back when I was a new player. So you definitely want that on 2 specific different buttons. Personally, I use space and for jumping, and I use shift for dodging. You have sort of a similar scenario down here with tag only and the social wheel. Again, I don't use this button, this hotkey at all whatsoever, so I don't know why it's even set. But I have my social wheel on V, and I have my tag only on my mouse button. Those are my settings. You don't have to copy them or anything, but put them on separate buttons. And then you have down here, weapon quick swap. That's one thing. But it's a really good idea to have a wheeled ranged weapon and another button for wheeled melee weapon. Because that way there's no chance. When I have to switch to my melee weapon right now, because I have to block, as we just talked about. In that same scenario, you don't want to accidentally double tap or swap back to your ranged weapon, and this way you can spam the button as much as you want to, and you're guaranteed to end up on your melee weapon. So for that reason, I suggest that at the very least you set a button for wheeled melee weapon, and if you feel like it, you can also put one for ranged, as I've done here. Wheeled health item and potion and grenade, I suggest setting them to 1, 2, 3. Instead of having the default, which is wheeled melee, wheeled ranged, and so on. Those aren't very good buttons for that. So I suggest having your inventory 1, 2, 3, because those are the 3 inventory items. At least I personally find that to be far easier. Let's see, what else do we have? I think that's about it for these buttons and your hotkeys. Let's see, under audio settings, I should suggest having the sound quality and dynamic range specifically. Definitely set that to high. I personally find that to be pretty important. And And I think that's about it. Yeah, those are the most important parts, I would say. And well, yeah. Anyways, that's all I have for you guys this time. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please don't forget, like, comment, subscribe. All much appreciated. Hopefully you learned something new. If you didn't, then I am so sorry, but get over it. And as always, I love you guys. Stay awesome. Peace out.